Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Totally Not Mark, and today we're checking out his final review. Now, the version that he uploaded to the internet was like 3 hours long. He put all the reviews together. He recorded an intro for it, and then the final section is the Fantasia arcs. What I've done is I've downloaded that, and then I cut the intro out, and I've cut the Fantasia review out, put them together, and that is what I'm going to be checking out. Because, as you guys are aware, I've already reacted to all of the prior reviews, so I just wanted to see what he thought of Fantasia. I cried so much. I've literally just finished reading it. I've been crying so much these last few chapters and that, and obviously we'll get into it as we are. So, like I said, it's going to have the intro from Mark's 3-hour video, and then we will check out the Fantasia section as soon as it decides to wake up.
Over the last year,
There we go.
I've documented my experience reading for the very
It's been such a good read, such a... Oh, it is incredible.
The magnum opus of one late great Kentaro Miura,
Mate.
who tragically passed away in 2021. To kick off this massive video, for those of you that want to read it but would also like to know my spoiler-free thoughts on it first, my one-line review of my experience with this story is as follows. This is quite literally a story that has changed my outlook on life for the better. And before I spend what will no doubt be an ungodly
It's incredible.
amount of time
It's so
sharing with you
incredible.
my discovery of that fact, I'd first like to do something a little different for those of you that do not wish to read this story or are on the fence. And so, for the next couple of minutes, I will try to convince you why this is a life-changing story worthy of your time. Why you should read Berserk. Shonen is the most popular genre of manga in Japan, and as a result has spawned some of the most popular releases and indeed anime to hit the rest of the world.
Hell
Many
yeah,
of which
Fullmetal
I've
Alchemist
praised
Brotherhood.
on this very channel. Stories that tell a triumphant journey focusing on perseverance, friendship, and a general coming of age. Messages and themes that are important for a younger audience to learn. Stories that Hollywood and the West love to make films about.
Hell yeah, they do.
A young hero in mind or in body who grows from an experience and becomes an adult. Then the credits roll, we leave the theater, change the channel, or we put down that comic thinking, what a terrific story. But this is not the story Berserk
It's
tells.
not a shonen.
There's more to life than just the first 20 years of it, and due to that fact, Berserk asks questions like, what happens when you have trauma? Can you ever
Yeah,
heal?
man.
What happens when your happily ever after
Just...
never comes? What happens if you find yourself having grown up and you can't remember or understand why? You feel like there's something wrong. A moment we can't remember.
So much stuff that just hits hard in this.
Earliest memories, we walked through life with a limp. Berserk is a story that helped me realize what's important. It helped me realize that I was being selfish, and it helped me become, I think, a better person. In the same way Dragon Ball helped me to learn life lessons as a child, Berserk helped to illuminate what it is an adult should learn on their journey through life. Through showing us the horrors of human nature as well as...
He goes through so
alongside the main character Guts, shows us where trauma can hide and manifest, and where love and life can thrive despite adversity.
Hell yes, keep going.
Pushes the boundaries, sets a new standard, and deals with some of the most compelling character writing I've seen committed to the pages of any manga. And so, if there's any story I recommend reading from...
God, yes, Berserk is so freaking amazing.
I will say, however, something to keep in mind is that this is not a shonen. It's a seinen manga. It's meant for adults. And if you're someone that struggles with excessive violence, assault on females, and
it was a bit
as well
like...
as depictions of horrifically contorted monsters far
At first, when you see all the grotesqueness of stuff, it's like, whoa, but... Yeah. It's necessary though, man. It's showing how horrible the world is.
My journey through Berserk. Time to tackle the unfinished Fantasia.
Let's go.
The boat adventures. I feel like those that read this...
Okay, yeah, it was a bit weird at first with the pirates and that. So obviously the pirates have been introduced already, but...
Infamous section. But we'll get to that. After a very dense conclusion courtesy of the previous arc...
Wasn't that incredible?
Physical and astral worlds.
Insane.
And the resurgence of the city
of Falconia.
This next
It was so sick, yeah.
In a similar way to the Lost Children's arc of conviction, quite short and simple. You know, minus the mountain of smoldering childhood.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's presented as a classic high seas adventure. What our heroes need to navigate while
It was weird. It's like, what's going on?
Dangerous sea creatures and monsters. While there, we get to interact with brand new characters like Isma, who I love, and even more fantastical creatures on the side of light. Why do I get
the Marrows?
You would love it here right
Hell
now.
yes, he would.
In hindsight is minor to me. For unlike Lost Children, which felt like a much-needed breather after after the
Yeah,
eclipse.
it was a nice little
Within this
break
adventure
after what
story,
happened,
we get
Jesus.
to re-engage with long-running mysteries from the previous stories, like one Moon Knight Boy, who I feel at this point must be that weird monster fetus creature Casca was drawn to following the eclipse in the Golden Age arc. Which means this could be the child of both Griffith and Casca, perhaps. Which runs the risk of being one of the most fucked up things this series has done, which is a tall order, but that is neither here nor there, and I hope for the love of God that I'm wrong. In addition to that, we also get a giant monster as the final boss to allow Guts to
Which is
do
cool.
what he does
It was
best.
really cool.
However, one of the only things I knew about this section before I started reading
I had no clue about anything.
was largely hated online. I suspect mostly because it lasted for years of publications, during which the Berserk series fell into a long hiatus, in addition to Miura at the time releasing about 2 chapters a year to advance the story.
Oh wow,
However,
okay, did not know that. That's mental. Yeah, that would have been frustrating, that. Jesus. Yeah, man, it was quite fun. Like, I thought it was quite fun with the pirate dude.
Precisely about the story at hand, the highlights of the story for me have to be Farnice's continuing of her
Mate, she does so well. She, the magic using is just like, go ahead, go.
As it connects to Guts' once again. One of the longest running tales in this long and winding story is that of how Guts tends to fight, and that's alone. From a young age, he's always been alone, and when he allows
But he has his
himself
friends
to
now.
connect to other people, the most horrific events befall them all. However, simultaneously, as the world itself grows longer in the tooth, so too do the dangers and responsibilities he's forced to contend with. In many ways, this is a metaphor for life, and in this
Yeah, it is. My God, it is. Life's hard, man.
More than he ever has in the past. He no longer can just fight and
Surround yourself with the people you need.
As time passes on by, his goal of protecting Casca and his friends becomes more than he can handle without the Berserker armor, which itself comes with its own terrible toll in his body, thus creating a necessity for Shiroke's involvement and eventually, unexpectedly, surprising aid of the Moonlight Boy.
Always comes at the right time.
Flower of Days Long Past. Spring Flower of Days Long Ago is a surprisingly short series of chapters.
This was an interesting one. It was nice to see Guts back in the day.
A surface level reading of the events that take place would tell you that this section serves to inform the readers of Guts' first ever experience with elves through a flashback. Namely, Chich, in this instance, is the elf. Going one level deeper, there's a consistency being employed here too. We've been told that elves are drawn to honest, wounded humans, and so, when we see this little creature look to help Guts in his dying moments, this sequence fits that billing. However,
it does, yeah.
All of that aside, what I love about this section isn't any of that, really. Instead, it's how beautiful this sequence is, both visually and metaphorically.
It's nice, really nice.
In the most dreary of places, all the while reinforcing to us who Guts is as a character. A moment that
like he cares.
Simultaneously has to be that of this scene. During his lowest moment, he notices a flower managing to bloom in his freezing cold cell, and alongside it, he sees with his very own 2 eyes a little elf. Perhaps he can see it because he's destined to be the person he eventually becomes, or perhaps he sees Chich because he's just a kid that's forced to be more mature and grown up in order to survive.
Maybe.
However,
Yeah.
With that said, the important part of this
Oh, mate, that was so sick. I just like swung that as the guy's eye.
But instead highlights what makes him distinct from everyone else Chich has come across during her time in this cell. And what makes him different isn't his sword, his safety blanket, but a concern he has for another's life, and at great cost to his own, despite what circumstances betrayed his trust.
Oh, that prick.
In other words, this short story proves to us that Guts is foundationally a kind person that would go out of his way to save any life, no matter the cost to his own, which is a far cry from the monster so many think of him as today. The city of Falconia.
There we go.
This place is huge.
It's massive, isn't it? It's absolutely ginormous. It looks incredible. Rickert.
Rickert had already been established as
I
a character way
gasped.
before these events, and in both interesting and
Gasped when Rickert met Griffiths and just bang! Oh my God!
Into Falconia and the picture of Griffith's ambition. Even with his dream having come true in this paradise, we can see some cracks already starting to form through Rickert's choices, Roxas not being 100% loyal to the throne, and a host of secondary threads that come as a result of a certain butterfly effect. Falconia may be a utopia, however, its very existence means that nowhere else can be peaceful and safe.
Yeah, it's peaceful there, but
it's either his way or the highway. And there's also this top-tier moment where Rickert finally goes from human to apostle by releasing his true form. A man with two gigantic balls as he
That moment, mate. Oh my god. Oh.
Powerful entity in this world.
That was sick.
This moment took me completely by surprise, and in that very instance, Rickard, who had already been a brilliant character in my eyes, became one of the most brave in this series.
Yeah, man. Who would do that? Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah. That was my reaction.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
Not at all.
Oh my god. Yes, Rickard. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah.
Absolute alpha move.
That was sick.
Sadly, there are a host of different characters and plot points established in this section that will probably never see a proper resolution. And for that reason, I'll just move on to the final section of the story, and it's my favorite part. The Corridor of Dreams.
Mate,
This
so
section of the story
many.
shows
He
Kentaro
is.
Miura and I believe Berserk at their respective peaks. There has never been a single piece of fiction that has affected me quite as much as this has. The profound sense of despair, pain, sadness, hope, and love I felt during my time reading this cannot be compared to anything I've either seen or read in the past. It surpasses, quite literally, everything. As the previous arc saw the
Seeing
culmination
Guts
of
as a
Rick's
dog
dreams
and Griffith
of
as an actual, like,
landing on the shores of
bird
Sweden
fighting
in
each other
the end of
was
the
so
journey of
sick.
Guts and the Black Swordsman party. Finally, they have arrived at the kingdom of Elfhem, where they meet the inhabitants of the Elf Kingdom, elves, witches, and other such magical and fantastical creatures. It's clear that this is the perfect land to develop both Shuduke and Farnies, and oh boy, do they develop. But above anything and everything else that this story has dealt with since the Golden Age arc, I've longed for the answer to one question.
Will
Can
Casca
be saved?
Yeah.
Has the journey been worth it? Can they bring Casca
And they
back?
still throw
This
in that.
section,
Oh.
which dives into the subject matter of Casca's retrieval from her subconscious, begins in chapter 347 entitled The Flower Storm Monarch, within which, once again, magic is used to emphasize and facilitate a narrative direction.
Yeah.
And right now, I'd like to use this as an opportunity to discuss what I love about magic in storytelling, and indeed Berserk specifically. There's a wonderful video called How to Write Great Magic
Oh,
by
okay,
a
cool.
creator on this platform called The Closer Look. I highly recommend you check out his work and that video, because in it points to the importance of what we value as people, the aspects of great stories that have stood the test of time that stay in our minds. This difference, he hypothesizes, is the root cause for why we remember old stories like that of King Midas. Not for his name, but for the power to turn everything he touches to gold, the lesson or message it wants to communicate.
The Midas touch.
And due to that, more of us likely remember the magic of that story and its subsequent meaning, and less of us will remember the name of that story. And I think that's the reason the most iconic section of this story to this day remains to be the eclipse among the Fantasia.
Jesus, yeah.
Why this magical encounter will be remembered as my favorite moment in the series, and perhaps all of fiction.
It did look incredible. This was so good. I can't think of a better word.
I consider myself a relatively well-adjusted guy. I have a large circle of truly wonderful friends, I have an amazing partner, and my relationship with my family is solid. But something I have always struggled with is trust. I do not trust easily, and for the majority of my relationships, I found that I truly do not trust those altruistically I have interpersonal relationships with. To this day, I think the amount of people I truly trust can be counted on a single hand, and even then, I think I may have a digit or two to spare. I say that because I feel like the moment that connected with me first in this section wasn't just the incredible journey that follows, but instead Guts' reaction when he heard he couldn't go personally to try and bring Casca back.
Yeah, man, he's got to, like, let them do it. It's like,
He's
what?
consistently pushed to get Casca to the correct location and into the right hands to begin this process. Guts is a man of action, and for him, that's his love language. He's not able to really communicate his feelings in any other way.
No, he just fights.
By action. And so, when he was told he couldn't go, and the Farnese and Shuduke had to do it instead, the conflicted expression that descended across his face was enough to send shivers down my spine.
Mate.
I felt like that was me, and boy did Miura nail it. I've spoken about this plenty of times in this video, the slow progression of Guts from telling himself comforting, self-centered lies to someone that has to learn to share the load, the burden, the struggle, with this effectively being his most difficult task thus far, to do nothing but wait. To allow someone else to carry out what is most important to him, and that is the ultimate trust exercise And much like Guts, this would shatter me. And shatter me, this absolutely did. In more ways than one. The dreamlike sequence that they have to find their way through is one of the most haunting
It's
experiences
very
I've had while
scary, man. That is some horror
I
there.
saw that injured hound dragging the casket was enough to reduce me.
So
to
symbolic, man.
The imagery contained in this section is some of the most difficult for me to journey through. I have so many emotional connections to these characters, and to see their pain laid bare like this through soul-destroyingly beautiful imagery is more than enough to place these chapters as the very best or most effective in the series.
It's up there, my god.
Casca and Barney's have to find the many missing pieces of the broken doll that is Casca's identity. With the journey that they all
Such
collectively
a
go on,
great
and the
idea.
of
So
experiencing everything
boss.
she's felt up until that point, and perhaps most importantly, how she views Guts
And then seeing the memories of everything back as well was a nice reminder of everything.
Unconscious interpretations of Guts, it's a beautiful way to finally understand her true feelings, something that was kept as a mystery for such a long time. Guts is not precisely seen as a white knight, but as this giant black hound, forever there as the watchful protector, wounded and almost helplessly hobbling forward in the hopes that he still might be able to save the only person in the world.
So beautiful, man.
Contrasted with this, you'll find her memories of him prior to the eclipse, held in an almost divine regard. The portrayal of their more intimate moments, like Campfire Dreams, another one of my favorite chapters, are depicted with astonishing beauty. Griffith's portrayal, on the other hand, is entirely different. Yes, he is seen as the Falcon of Light to the entire world, but here in Casca's
dark,
dreams,
man.
we see the representation of his true nature through the eyes of Casca herself. A giant black spectre ready to capture and tear down to pieces everything that stands before him. And it's Guts, her protector.
The Berserk armor on the dog was so sick.
Is there for her that stands up to that imposing adversary. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. So, it's so nice.
In a fashion that truly feels like an end of a long journey. It's Farnese who's the one that puts the final fragment into Casca's broken soul. After experiencing everything Casca has felt to this point, sharing her happy and sad moments, her joys and fears in the most literal of ways, it's Farnese, the one that shared a similar parallel story to Casca, is the one who brings her back from the abyss. Which leads into one of the most beautiful show-don't-tell panels in the entire manga.
But then... Well, he's done a good job here, but yeah. Yeah, this was nice that she remembered everything. It's like...
Talking to each other in many ways for the very first time, Farnese asks if she remembers Guts, and with the mere pronunciation of his name, without even finishing the sentence, we turn the page and we see Casca's reaction. An entire story between these two characters, a storm of feelings, questions and memories, everything portrayed in one single teary-eyed expressive
That was beautiful.
This, if nothing else, makes Berserk worth it in my book. A mission achieved by the people he needed to trust, that could only have been accomplished and completed by those very individuals. Unfortunately, however,
mate, no, the next...
they move to reunite with each other. The same visual techniques employed to equally catastrophic effect. When Casca is finally reunited with Guts, she doesn't see him, she sees something entirely different.
Yeah. Oh.
The man she once knew has been scarred by this struggle. Quite literally, he has struggled to hold himself together. He's no longer the man she remembers, and what's more, evokes memories from the darkest traumas of her life. The monster Guts had to be calm in order to survive, in order to protect and create this reality for Casca. Is the very aspect of him that terrifies and panics.
Yeah, man, this
Like
sucks.
Guts no longer can have what's most important to him in this moment. The ending and final.
Oh, here we go. Cool.
At this moment in time, both Guts and Griffith are similar in that they are following their own convictions despite their safe and comfortable circumstances. Griffith wants to seize more control over more land by enacting his will unto those that seek his help.
Yeah.
Guts is faced with a choice. A choice which no doubt would have been answered had the series continued in its current trajectory.
Mate, yeah, I'm not gonna see how it's resolved.
Making the right choices for the right reasons. Within the Golden Age, during Campfire of Dreams, Guts reconciles that he might not ever feel a true connection with anyone, and on the back of that sentiment, he decides to embark on a journey of self-discovery, to find his own dream. his own conviction, which ultimately leads him to nothing but isolation.
Yeah.
An isolation that eventually brings him back to Casca. Similarly, Griffith during that early portion chooses to take chance after chance to protect Guts despite it coming at a cost to his dream, which led him to a certain snowy mountaintop, the likes of which led to the single most horrific event in the entire story. An event that threw Guts into a whirlwind rage, the likes of which he hasn't completely surfaced from even after one of my favourite chapters in the entire series, Cracks in the Blade. A chapter that outlines the dangers of this indulgent and selfish quest for revenge. Guts is determined to see through to the bitter end, despite what he stands to lose in the process. But Guts says no to this impulse. He says no to rage, resentment, revenge, and every other aspect of his personal scars Griffith has left him with, because he chooses her.
Yeah.
He accepts
Casca.
her as worth it. There's a brief moment in the middle of that intimate chapter between Guts and Casca in the Golden Age that I find fascinating. The moment that Casca is left to make her own decision. In a turn of events that we have not seen much of since then, Guts is entirely vulnerable, with all of his physical and psychological scars laid to bear for her to see plain as day.
That was
She is
intense.
a dangerous, wounded creature that's been abused their entire life. One that can't bring himself to trust anyone, and yet, in this moment, she accepts him for who he is.
Yeah, man, that's
She
beautiful.
loves
It's like,
him for who he is, and wants to be there for him because of who he is, scars and all. And in a similar way, I think Guts, following this moment in chapter 364, will have to make a similar choice. One that harkens back to not only the cracks in the blade, but indeed that treasured meeting with Casca. It's no coincidence that Guts got to see Skull Knight's memories while wearing his suit of armor. It's clearly symbolic not only of Guts seeing through the eyes of his confidant, but
it was really cool that, like, I like that we got to learn more about him.
Through these visions, we see a Skull Knight that followed a path of destruction and revenge. One that led him to lose what was most important to him. A revenge that to this day still consumes him entirely. This story, however, is not one that hinges on the decisions of just one individual. In the same way the moon cannot create an eclipse without the sun, Guts' journey of self-discovery cannot exist without Griffith. Neither can exist without the other. One of the final revelations in the story is that of the Moonlight Boy's true identity. That is a substantial part of Griffith's being in the mortal world. Countless times during the Golden Age arc, Griffith is said to be childlike and innocent both in appearance and the aura he exudes. This too is confirmed by the Moonlight Boy during the last few chapters. Apart from a few obvious and more grotesque implications that this might imply, I genuinely believe that this is a visual representation or manifestation for the conflict in Griffith's mind. The same conflict which prevented him from taking the optimal path towards his dreams early on in the Golden Age, one that took chances to protect Guts at all costs. Much like those that we saw on the beach and the pirate sections of this very story too. The final revelation by Miura, while I can see why it upset some people for leaving us on the largest cliffhanger in the series, I will also say that I think it's an incredible moment for the series to end with.
Hell yeah.
The look of Casca and Guts' dark features under the full moon's light, and the soft and fair features of Griffith beneath the sun. This instance is a physical manifestation of the very moment that has defined this entire series, the eclipse. A coming together of both light and dark to create something entirely new. And so now, Kentaro Miura and the team behind this breathtaking story ask us, the audience, one final question. What path does the man who we know is naturally kind but filled with a nurtured rage follow? What path does the man who's naturally rageful but nurtured to be kind follow? Can Guts accept that what's done is done and live out the rest of his life in peace as the dutiful protector and companion to Casca? Or does he embrace the rageful hound that lurks right beneath the surface? Can Griffith live out his dream while ignoring what's undeniably important to him? In the process, Guts. In the end, Berserk asks us to ask ourselves, who are we really? And is lying to ourselves worth it, or a comfortable fantasy? Kentaro Miura was fired for being too good. That's a common line you hear from anyone who talks about him and his work. And honestly, it takes an honest author and former employer like George Morikawa, the creator of Hajime no Ippo, to admit something like that. What would have happened if Miura kept working as an assistant and never came out as a solo artist? Reading interviews from different colleagues and friends who knew him, it's clear how much he influenced everyone around him in a positive way, and how big the mark he left as a mangaka truly is. Now, if you got to this point in the video, there's likely no need to explain to you why or to stress how important Berserk truly is. Not only to the world of manga,
incredible.
But to media and storytelling.
It's a huge influence with Dark Souls, isn't it?
Lost to us if Miura never met someone that encouraged him to not work as an assistant and to just go for it. What would have happened if he never tried and never became the obsessive, perfection-seeking author he would later become known as around the world? Osamu Tezuka, or as some might remember him as the godfather of manga,
Oh,
was
Astro
constantly
Boy.
asked questions like, why do you work like this? Why would anyone do something like this to themselves? Why do you do what you do if you know how crazy it is? And to that, he would lose himself for a second, staring vacantly at something only he could understand, breaking only to respond with a smiling, I wonder why. How passionate an artist is something only they can understand. And
Yeah.
maybe there are no real motives to do what they do. Maybe they just do it because that's the only way they know how to live. He died doing what he wanted, no matter what, right?
But he was happy.
Kentaro Miura chose to dedicate his entire life to his work. And even with the help of Studio Gaga, the team he would later allow to help him with the serialization of Berserk, he would become more and more obsessive with putting out his best efforts.
So sick.
This work was his way. And even if he'll never know how positively Berserk's impact has affected people around the world, I hope he felt proud about what he achieved.
He should.
Proud of the first step he took in the 80s. He was first fired and became a solo author. A perfectionist will never be satisfied, but I hope that he never finished drawing a single page or panel with any sense of regret, simply because he gave it his all. Rest in peace, and thank you, Kentaro Miura.
Yeah, man.
この世界には人の運命を司る何らかの超越的な律、神の手が存在するのだろうか。少なくとも人は自らの一切自由にはできない。
人は記憶の彼方、遥か遠い日、心に負った小さな傷をかばうために剣を取る。人は思いの彼方、遥か遠い日、微笑みながら行くために剣を振るう。
Mate. What a journey, man. What a journey. I would highly recommend, if anyone's not read Berserk, to just do it. It's so good, and it's helped me with a few things recently as well. I'm not going to go into because I don't want to start crying again. But yeah, my God, I can't believe it's just not going to continue. But I'm glad it's there. I'm glad yeah, I'm very happy I read that. I'm glad I've checked out Mark's reviews along the way, and yeah, damn. Anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video, I upload links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask to help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys very much for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.